What if everything you were taught about Egypt's most famous monument is wrong? For over a century, we have been told a simple story. The Great Sphinx of Giza was carved around 2500 BC on the orders of the Pharaoh Khafre as a guardian for his pyramid. Case closed, mystery solved, move along. But stand at the edge of the Giza Plateau, run your hand across the ancient limestone of the Sphinx enclosure, and you will find something that should not be there. Deep, rolling grooves, vertical channels, cut not by wind and sand, but by something else entirely. Something that, according to the official timeline, should not have existed in Egypt for thousands of years before Khafre was even born. Rainfall. Heavy, prolonged, torrential rainfall. Today, we are going to dig into one of the most explosive controversies in modern archaeology, the question of the true age of the Great Sphinx. We will look at the geology, the astronomy, and the ancient texts that suggest this silent stone guardian may be far, far older than we have been told, and that it may be watching over secrets from a lost chapter of human history. Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you may never look at the Sphinx the same way again. Let's start with what we think we know. The traditional view, held by most Egyptologists, is straightforward. The Sphinx was commissioned by Khafre, the same pharaoh linked to the Second Great Pyramid of Giza, sometime around 2500 BC. The evidence for this comes largely from a granite structure nearby called the Valley Temple, which shares architectural similarities with the Sphinx enclosure, and from a damaged statue of Khafre found close by. It is a tidy story: one pharaoh, one monument, one era. But in the early 1990s, a geologist named Robert Schoch took a very different kind of look at the Sphinx, not through inscriptions or artifacts, but through the stone itself. Schoch examined the deep weathering patterns carved into the walls of the Sphinx enclosure, the pit surrounding the statue. What he found was not the sharp, flaking erosion typical of wind and sand, which is what you would expect after thousands of years in Egypt's dry desert climate. Instead, he found smooth, rounded, vertical fissures, the unmistakable signature of prolonged water erosion. Not flooding, not a single storm, but centuries of heavy rainfall soaking into the limestone again and again. Here is why that detail is so explosive. Egypt's climate has been arid, dry, and desert-like for roughly the last 5,000 years. But before that, during a period climatologists call the Holocene wet phase, the region experienced significant rainfall. That wetter climate ended somewhere between 5000 and 7000 BC. If Schoch is right, and the erosion on the Sphinx really was caused by rainfall rather than sand and wind, then the monument could not have been carved in 2500 BC. It would have to be thousands of years older, dating back to a time when Egypt looked nothing like the desert we know today. Schoch was not working alone. He consulted with Boston University seismologist Thomas Dobicki, who used seismic refraction surveys around the Sphinx enclosure to measure how deep the weathering actually went into the rock. Their combined findings pointed toward an age far older than the accepted timeline, potentially placing the Sphinx's origins closer to 7000 or even 9000 BC. Naturally, this idea did not sit well with mainstream Egyptology. Critics pointed out that some erosion patterns could be explained by other factors, like groundwater seepage, salt weathering, or humidity trapped in the limestone over time. And crucially, no other structures from that supposed era, no tools, no settlements, no writing, have ever been found in Egypt to support the existence of an advanced civilization capable of carving a monument this size around 7000 BC. So the debate reached a standstill. Geology on one side, suggesting an older Sphinx, archaeology on the other, insisting there is no supporting evidence for a civilization advanced enough to build it that long ago. But the story does not end there, because the Sphinx has another mystery built directly into its body: its head. Look closely at the Sphinx, and something seems off. The head appears small, almost disproportionate to the massive lion's body beneath it. Some researchers, including Schoch, have proposed a theory to explain this. What if the head was recarved at a later date, perhaps during Khafre's reign, from an original head that had been worn down or damaged over thousands of years? If true, this would mean the body of the Sphinx could be vastly older than its face, and the face we see today might not be the one the original builders intended at all. Some researchers have even gone further, suggesting the original head may have depicted a lion rather than a human, which would fit with the astrological theory proposed by authors Graham Hancock and Robert Bauval. Their argument centers on precession, the extremely slow wobble of Earth's axis that shifts which constellations appear on the horizon over thousands of years. Using astronomical software to reverse the night sky, Bauval and Hancock argued that the layout of the Giza pyramids mirrors the constellation Orion, as it would have appeared around 10,500 BC, and that the Sphinx itself, as a lion, would have gazed directly at the constellation Leo on the spring equinox of that same era, an alignment they call the Age of Leo. It is a beautiful, almost poetic idea, a monument built to mark a specific symbolic moment in the sky, encoding a date into stone that would only be recognized thousands of years later. But it remains just as controversial as Schoch's water erosion theory. Mainstream astronomers and Egyptologists argue that pattern-matching star alignments to monuments is highly subjective, and that similar alignments can often be found for almost any structure if you search hard enough across enough dates. So where does this leave us? On one side, we have respected professionals and geological evidence pointing toward a Sphinx far older than history books allow. On the other, we have the absence of supporting archaeological evidence and legitimate scientific pushback against both the water erosion and star alignment theories. What nobody disputes is this: the Sphinx has been buried in sand, almost to its neck, for most of its known history. The Pharaoh Thutmose IV, over 1,000 years after Khafre supposedly built it, described in an inscription known as the Dream Stele how he uncovered the Sphinx from the sand after it spoke to him in a dream, promising him the throne of Egypt if he freed it from its sandy grave. Even in ancient Egypt, the Sphinx was already treated as something mysterious, something ancient, something that predated living memory. So, is the Great Sphinx, 4,500 years old, a masterpiece of Khafre's 4th dynasty craftsmen? Or is it a relic of a forgotten age, carved by hands we know almost nothing about, its true history worn away by the same rains that first shaped its silent, weathered face? The truth is, we still do not know for certain. What we do know is that the Sphinx continues to resist easy answers, guarding its secrets the same way it has for thousands of years, whether that number is 4,500 or something far, far greater. Maybe that is exactly why it still captivates us today. Some mysteries are not meant to be solved quickly. Some are meant to make us keep looking, keep questioning, and keep wondering just how much of our own history we have truly uncovered. If you enjoyed this journey into one of history's greatest unsolved puzzles, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the mysteries of ancient human life, and let us know in the comments, how old do you think the Sphinx really is? Until next time, keep looking to the past, because it still has stories left to tell.